You know, there's a revolution happening right now in how we build software. AI is writing code faster than we ever thought possible. But underneath all that speed, there's a hidden world of risk that most leaders just don't see coming. So let's break down what's really going on. This quote from AI pioneer Andrei Karpov just nails it, doesn't it? It perfectly captures this massive shift we're seeing. It's a world where developers are becoming less like authors and more like managers of an AI. The very idea of writing code is changing right under our feet. But what happens when we forget the code exists? What are we really giving up in this deal? To answer that, we're going to walk through 5 key areas. First, we'll define what this vibe coding revolution actually is. Then, we'll pull back the curtain on the illusion of speed. After that, we'll expose a brand new class of risk, introduce a framework for governing it all, and wrap up with a playbook for leaders to turn all this risk into a real advantage. So, first up, the vibe coding revolution. Look, this isn't just about a new tool or a new feature. This is a fundamental change in the relationship between a human and a machine. It's about moving from being an author to being a manager. And this is the core idea. Vibe coding might sound like slang, but it's a very real workflow. A developer gives an instruction, a vibe, right? Something like, build me a login page, and the AI just does it. It's amazing for speed and prototyping, but here's the problem. It is fundamentally at odds with what you need for stable, secure, enterprise-level software. So how does this actually play out? Well, it leads us straight to what we call the illusion of speed. And this is the heart of the issue, really. It explains why this new workflow is so tempting and so incredibly dangerous. It all comes down to what we're choosing to measure. And here it is. This is the siren song for business leaders. You see a number like a 20 to 35% boost in output, and you think, wow, it sounds like a massive force multiplier, a way to crush deadlines and get to market faster. I mean, who wouldn't want that? But this is only half the story. This chart shows you the dangerous trade-off you're making. That first bar in blue, that's the immediate spike in developer velocity everyone's excited about. But look at that second bar, the orange one. While your velocity goes up, this hidden bubble of risk and technical debt, it's growing even faster. And that isn't some abstract problem. That represents real, future costs that your company will have to pay. This brings us to a completely new and specific class of risk. We're talking about the rise of what experts are now calling synthetic vulnerabilities. These are flaws that are pretty much unique to, or at the very least, supercharged by generative AI. Just let that number sink in for a second. A landmark study from this year found that up to 62% of AI-generated code contains security flaws. That means more than half of that super-fast code your team is shipping could be riddled with holes. This isn't some minor bug, it's a systemic crisis in the making. And this right here perfectly illustrates why AI errors are so much scarier. A human makes a mistake because they're tired, right? It's usually a one-off. An AI, on the other hand, it confidently hallucinates flawed code that looks perfect, and then it can replicate that same exact flaw across thousands of lines of code in seconds. The scale of the problem is just on a completely different planet. Okay, let's walk through a concrete and frankly terrifying example. It's called the hallucinated package attack. First, an AI suggests a really helpful-sounding software library that doesn't actually exist. Step 2, a bad actor sees this, registers that exact name, and fills it with malware. Your developer, trusting the AI's vibe, installs it, and just like that, you've basically invited malware directly into your network, completely bypassing all your firewalls. And believe me, it does not stop there. We're seeing AI hardcode secret keys and passwords directly into public-facing code. We're seeing it build login systems that validate passwords right there in the browser where anyone can see them. And it creates these subtle, critical logic flaws, like in a simple snake game that actually allowed a hacker to take full control of the user's computer. The scary part is the code works, but it is fundamentally, dangerously insecure. Okay, so the problem is huge. We've established that. So what's the solution? This is where we shift from chaos to control. It's about governing the vibes, which really means moving to a professional practice called context engineering. This slide really lays out the 2 paths forward. On the left, you've got vibe coding. It's a liability. It's a black box built on intuition and, frankly, luck. On the right, you have context engineering. This is an asset. It produces defensible, auditable intellectual property through a systematic, repeatable methodology. The crucial point here is you have to make a choice between these two. So how do you actually do it? Well, here's a proven 3-tiered framework. It starts at the top with policy and legal. You have to set clear rules on what tools are approved and what training is mandatory. Then, you integrate changes into your process, things like much more rigorous code reviews specifically for AI output. And finally, you layer on technical controls, automated tools that act as guardrails, constantly policing what the AI producing. All right, so we have the framework. This brings us to the strategic playbook for leaders. And this is all about taking everything we've just talked about and turning it from a defensive move into a real, tangible, competitive advantage. Now, this is absolutely huge. The US Copyright Office has ruled that if all you do is provide a simple prompt and just accept the AI's output, you don't own it. It's likely public domain. Think about that. For any company whose valuation is tied to its intellectual property, this is an existential threat. Vibe coding could literally be making your core assets completely worthless. And the tools you choose matter immensely. This chart breaks down the landscape from a risk perspective. You've got established players like GitHub Copilot, which offer the strongest legal protection. Then you have newer, agentic tools that give you more power and control, but with less tested legal frameworks. And no matter what, that bottom layer of security scanners, that is absolutely non-negotiable. So we're going to end with this. In this new world we're entering, the true intellectual property isn't just the final code anymore. It's the carefully crafted prompts, the architectural constraints, the very context you provide to the AI. That's the asset. So the question every single leader needs to be asking themselves right now is yours protected?